This old house is made possible by a grant from Owens Corning Fiberglass Corporation, manufacturers of residential building products.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome to This Old House. As you can see, our coal-burning stove has arrived and we're getting ready to install that. But today, we're going to be touring the grounds with Tom Worth, our landscape architect. We'll be going downstairs to install some resilient flooring. And earlier today, I spent some time touring all the rooms here at This Old House with our wall covering consultant. Joining us now is Pat Harhay. Pat is a wall covering consultant who's come in to help us make some choices about what kinds of wallpapers and things to use in our different rooms here. What's some of the main considerations when choosing wallpapers?
Well, Bob, there are several main considerations, but the most important one that we've chosen today is the color balance. We want color balance from room to room throughout your house.
So that all the different rooms kind of coordinate or match up with each other. Do you want to do anything special here in our sunroom?
No, let's keep this room light and airy and bright and sunny. And
I'm glad to hear that, because I like the natural wood and the white walls, and there'll be a lot of greenery in there. What about the living room here?
The living room. The main problem of the living room is that we've given the illusion that the ceiling has been lowered because of the paneled wall and ceiling. So I understand that you're going to paint this room, the ceiling and wall, an off-white or a white. Is this correct?
That's an interesting point, because the ceiling is really not that low, but the paneling, once it went up, it kind of made it feel closer to our heads.
Right. So with that, keeping that white or off-white, that will help to raise the height of the room, the illusion, plus the wall covering that we selected. We selected a vertical stripe textured print. Now, this is a fabric-backed vinyl, easy to care for, light in tone and texture, and this will also help to give the illusion that the room height is up.
Vertical stripes on a wall always make you think that it's a taller room.
Right.
Okay, let's see how this kind of coordinates with what you're doing on the other side of the sunroom here in the dining area.
Well, Bob, I'd like to show you how we're going to continue the feeling of color balance in our home. First, I'd like you to see that we have continuous oak floors now in all the rooms.
Yeah.
We have a bright, light window with a lovely natural picture scene outside. So we have selected...
So these are two kind of prime considerations before you choose a paper for this room.
Your dominant color, your flooring color, and the amount of light and the size of your windows.
And most of the year it's a picture window, so I'm going to be looking right outside.
Right. We've selected a nice natural grass cloth printed texture design, which is subdued, nice, easy to live with. You wouldn't want a harsh, bold print in here because this room is seen from a lot of other adjoining rooms. Your greenhouse, your living room, your kitchen.
In a way, this is the living space that could almost be thought of as one room, so I see what you're saying.
People walk through it continuously. It has to be easy to live with.
Why didn't you use the same paper on our back hall here?
This is a companion to the grass cloth print. This is a grass cloth texture without a print. We've selected this as just a nice feeling to convey a companion going down the hallways. Okay?
Okay.
All right, let's go on to a problem area, our bathroom.
Oh, not everybody thinks it's a problem, you know. I mean, it's got fans and other people don't like it, but it certainly is pink.
Well, it's pink. It's pink and it's black. I must point out that designers, wall covering designers, do keep color in mind at all times.
And old color schemes.
Old color schemes, new color schemes, so that you can find wall covering suited to an older home such as this. We selected a mirrored mylar wall covering.
Now, what's the logic there?
Well, there's two. One, if we wallpaper in mylar, it will tend to bring the room up and give it the illusion of being larger. Also, the second is that it will tend to make these tiles set back, seem just set back, not as dominant as they once were without the wall covering.
Yeah, okay, the paper is visually stronger than the tile was originally, so that you're drawing the eye up instead of straight down at the pink all the time.
Right.
Let's go see what you've got planned for our kitchen.
Okay.
Now, in the kitchen, we've already chosen two colors so that they kind of are your guidelines, aren't they?
Right. We have a dominant color, almond, which takes up about 60% of our room.
Appliances and cabinets are all in that beige, yeah.
Right. Our secondary color is our nice teal blue tiling, which is very nice.
Thank you. I like the color myself.
Okay. So I've selected a handsome plaid wall covering design that picks up both your almond color and your teal blue color and gives us a third color, an accent color, the maroon red.
Yes.
Now we can use the accent color for placemats or curtains or whatever we select.
Coffee mugs, napkins, whatever.
Right.
Okay,
Gives us
I see
a third color.
My only question is over here, where we're getting to the mudroom area. Why did you switch? Why did you use something else?
Well, my personal feeling was that if we put the plaid throughout the mudroom and in all rooms, it would tend to clash. It would be too much plaid. This room is used for hanging coats. It's a closet room. It's a mudroom. So I selected a nice corduroy texture design, which handsomely companions with our plaid, and it's easy. It just gives a nice accent to the kitchen itself.
Okay. Let's go look at our, well, the bedroom I've always called the nursery,
Let's
which
sail on
we're
to
talking,
the den.
we're talking about it as a den. Well, I can see why you said sailing, Pat. Now, if I had to spend a lot of time in this room, I'd learn all about how to build a sailing boat.
Well, it's a blueprint design, Bob.
Yeah.
It's, you could actually probably learn how to build a sailboat reading this. I selected this mainly because this is a den room. It should convey a feeling of warmth and relaxation at any time, day or night. This room gets a lot of sunlight.
So it can handle the darker shade.
It can handle the darker shade.
Yeah.
I think it's very handsome, and I think it'll do well in this room.
Well, it's one of my favorite colors. It's the same color as the teal blue in the kitchen that we were just looking at.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Let's look at what you've got in store for the master bedroom. Okay, I was wondering when you'd pick some flowers for us.
Well, here we're trying to make a statement. A bedroom should be a room that conveys relaxation and comfort, and I think this paper works rather well. It's a reproduction of a document paper that was found in an old inn in New Hampshire. So it'll work well here.
And I love the colors in it, too.
When you do work with a paper that makes a statement like this, you want to keep your furnishings rather light and neutral. Wood tones, good woods.
Low key.
Low
yeah.
key.
And
Low
what have
key
you
in
got
color.
over here? Now, some cloth that...
Now, we have companion fabric that exactly matches the wall coverings. There are many wall coverings that do have fabrics available, and I'd like to see this used, hopefully, as a comforter for the bed or for draperies. I think that'll help in making the full design statement.
Pat, when you're using a print like this, full of flowers and sprigs and leaves, does it make any difference what you do in the adjoining area? Like, I'm thinking already of the master bathroom over here that we haven't looked at. Are you kind of forced to use the same paper?
No, you're not. There are companion wall coverings available for practically any design in the market today. Now, here we've selected a wall covering that goes with our vanity colors.
Which is kind of just plain gray.
It's a gray, blue-gray, which picks up the blue-gray of the paper, which also goes very well with the master bedroom paper. So
Very
you
good.
have a complete color scheme going from room to room.
Super. I think you've made some really good choices, and next week we'll probably be getting into hanging them. Right now, I've got a visit to do down in our basement rumpus room to talk about resilient flooring, so excuse me. Well, with us now are Bob Aspey, who's our resilient flooring consultant, and his assistant, Bob Dempsey. You know, when we started planning things here, I never thought we would actually do anything but buff up this floor in the basement. The old asphalt tile, I guess, is not as good as I thought it was, huh?
No, it's not, Bob. Let me show you what I mean by this. It's got some loose pieces. We're removing them, as you can see here, and filling them with a patching compound.
These are just worn out after 25 years, I suppose.
That's really what it comes down to.
What kind of a product is this white?
It's a latex patching compound. It dries extremely hard, durable. It won't come out at a later time.
And then the new flooring that you're recommending actually goes and sits right on top of this old stuff. That's why all this
Right.
patching has to be done.
We're going to install the new floor right directly
Let's
over
take a
this
look
old
at the
floor.
material you've chosen for us, Bob. Is it something extraordinary? Is it something relatively new or what?
Well, first of all, yes, it's relatively new material in the marketplace. It has an excellent ability to hide subfloor imperfections, such as we're seeing here.
Okay.
It's an all-vinyl product. It doesn't have the backing material on it. It has a dense foam inner layer that makes the floor soft and quiet and easy to live on.
Does it have to be waxed or washed often? Or?
No, this is a new, no-wax surface. It's minimum care.
And that really works. You know, I find it a little bit intimidating when you're doing a big room like this to do it by yourself and maybe spoil a whole bunch of flooring goods. Do you think the average do-it-yourselfer should undertake this kind of work?
Absolutely. There's no reason why the do-it-yourselfer shouldn't install a floor like this himself.
Do you need any special tools to do it?
This is what we're going to use to install this floor.
All that we're seeing down here?
Right.
All right. Well, why don't you give us a few tips, actually, and we'll watch you as you go along, putting down the rest of it.
We've got the first sheet primarily installed.
Half of the room is down,
right.
yeah. What'll you need over here?
Okay, first of all, we're going to show you how to fit around an irregular shaped area such as we have. Most rooms will have a doorway such as this, and the shape is irregular.
Yeah, several angles in
And
there.
it's really easy to get a good fit around a door like this. And here's the way you do it. You just take an ordinary paper pad that you'll find in most households, and you outline the area that you want to fit to with paper.
So you're just
Simple
using
as
the
that.
corners
Right.
of the paper to fit
What
right
we're
in.
doing is making a template out of a lot of pieces of
Sure.
paper rather than one, and it makes it a lot easier. See, I just made a curved cut there. It won't fit all the way around, but you can take a couple of more cuts, and there we go. And you just tape everything together with some
Just plain masking tape.
or Scotch tape, right. Just like this. Just tape them all together, and then we take a piece of masking tape and loop it over like that. And what we've done is make ourselves some double-faced tape.
Yeah.
We lay our flooring product down into the tape, press it in place, and we pick up our pattern like that.
So you just outline it there
Right.
and you're ready to cut.
See, it's almost impossible to make a mistake doing something like this. And then we just draw a line. Right around the outline of the paper. Like
And
so.
That's what you're going to cut. Yeah.
Right. You take this off. Back with a pair of scissors.
Well, that takes all the mystery right out of it, doesn't it?
And I think that you'll find that when we put it back in place, we're going to have a real nice fit.
And you can do the same method of creating a template if you're going around posts or
Right. We'll
columns
use
or
the
anything
same
like
method
that, right?
around the posts.
You've got a little
over
bit
here.
left on.
Okay,
You
now
got
that came off. See? See how
Excellent.
nicely we're fitting?
Super.
And then what we have here is a plastic doorway molding.
Yeah, like a
This will
threshold.
slide right.
Well, Bob,
in
what
there.
about the handling, the huge roll of this material? Are there any tricks to the trade?
No, not really. Takes two people.
Okay, well, there's three of us right now, so we should
Okay,
do all right.
well, Bob and I can get this.
Okay.
Here's the way we do it. We just bring it up like this. You want to get on the other side there, Bob, and I'll pull and... As you can see, it's very flexible. Virtually impossible to tear because it's... You know, years ago, you couldn't do this with floor covering materials, but today, particularly with this type of a product,
You can just bend it back like
do
a
just
like
about
a sheet.
anything you want to with
Yeah.
it. Right.
Now here you'll have about 2 feet to cut off
Well,
on the edge,
no,
right?
what we're going to do is pull it over this way. We're going to match our design at the seam over there.
Okay. I'll just get out of your way for a couple of minutes.
Okay. Before we do anything to the walls, we want to match the design at the seam. And first thing we want to do is to trim a little bit of our salvage edge off like this so that we can get a good perspective as to how we're matching. We want to align the top sheet exactly with the sheet that's underneath. Okay, now what we'll do is just move this around. We have to come this way a little bit, Bob. Okay. All right, we're looking pretty good right there. Here we go.
So you're lining this
Right,
up
you
with
see,
this
with
line
this
here.
notch,
so that the
I wanna
pattern is
put-
all...
This edge even with that edge.
Okay. Well, we've taken a few minutes to get a perfect match along here, and the fellas have cut around these posts using the same template method that we showed you a minute ago over there by the door casing. Now, Bob, what are we getting involved in over here?
Well, we're using a strip method of measuring because we have a recessed area here. And what it amounts to is we've placed the tips of this paper where we want the floor covering to end, back underneath the radiator. We put made double-faced tape out of masking tape. And what we're going to do is pick those pieces of paper up on the back of the floor covering, and then we're going to strike a line all the way down the wall. The reason that we have put so many of them there is because that the wall will vary. You ready, Bob? Okay, here we go. Now, you just want to come along here and step on that.
Step on it and make sure you're picking up
Right,
your markers.
Right. Yeah. The paper being very light, it's going to come out from underneath there. Okay, I think we're all set down at this end, Bob. How about you? All set?
All right, let's see what you do next then.
Now we pick up our paper strips, like so. There we go. Now we come back with our carpenter's square, and all we do is place it at the tips of the paper, like so, and draw a line.
So that you've got guide points everywhere that the paper lies. Okay.
And you go along the whole wall this same way. As you can see there, you've got the exact spot.
Well, in the last 10 minutes, we've done the back wall, and now Bob Dempsey's using the same technique on this other section of wall, and all that has to be done is to cut away the excess material with a pair of scissors. But let's go over to the other end of the room and take a look at what Bob Aspey is doing over here, fitting a different kind of wall. How did you do it over here?
Well, Bob, I'm using a new tool that's just coming into the marketplace called the AccuMarker, and it's designed for fitting resilient floor covering flush to straight walls such as we have here.
And it's really nothing more than a ballpoint pen with kind of a squared off guide. Let's see how you use that.
That's right. Here's the way it works. You hold it just like that. You press it up against the flooring, press downward and inward, and just pull it towards you like that. And you mark the floor covering all along the wall.
Yeah,
and then you get to the corner, you turn it around and come back and meet your line coming the other way.
And then all you've got to do is cut it with scissors.
Right. I come back over here and and we just trim along the line like so. And 4. Yeah, what you can see is a perfect fit.
A perfect fit. Right. Now, the one area that I'm concerned about is where you've got the two pieces of sheet goods overlapping. Let's go take a look at how that's done. Now, Bob, it seems to me that cutting this type of a seam would be real horror show stuff.
Really isn't, Bob. In fact, it's quite easy. Now, let me show you what I mean. Bob has cut part of this seam here, and as you can see, you lay it back together, falls into place beautifully. In fact, the seam just disappears.
So the trick is just to overlap it then.
That's right. You've overlapped like that. You put a carpenter's square down the center of the mortar joint. Come back with a utility knife. Just hold it straight up and cut through both layers of material like that.
You're cutting through both of them at once.
Right.
Now, what happens once you've gotten them perfectly together? I mean, they disappear from view, but what about water getting down underneath there and so forth?
Well, to complete the seam, what we're going to do is come back with a band of adhesive centered under the seam about 4 inches wide.
Okay.
And then after that, we're going to weld the seam together so that soil and water cannot get in it with this liquid.
Which is, this is like a solvent that actually will melt the surface there a
right.
little bit?
Let me show you here on this scrap piece of material. It's just a clear liquid, and it welds the seams together so it won't come apart. You can't get dirt or water down into it. The floor will look, that seam will look just as beautiful.
Yeah. That's the rest of the
15
floor.
years from now as it does today.
Okay. Well, we still have a little bit of work left to do here, and thanks for coming out and helping us with it. We're going to take a minute now and tour the grounds with my friend Tom Worth.
Bob, this is the first view that everyone has when they drive up to your house from the road. And of course, it's the very first impression, so we want to make it a good one. Of course, most of the houses in this subdivision are somewhat similar. They're all about the same size, the same distance back from the street.
And they all, you know, like this one,
they all have a center entry.
Yeah.
Now, what you've cleverly done is taken your entry and moved it around to the side. So what we really want to do is to work on that kind of potential and opportunity. And to do that, we need to somehow ameliorate these big poles, the telephone poles and the street signs and all this old planning that doesn't make any sense. The other thing, of course, we want to do, let's take a walk up to the side yard here. The other thing we want to do is to make the view from the inside of the house looking out more pleasant. Now, this planting was all originally put in here to screen the foundation.
That's foundation planting,
and
right.
typically, I don't like to use foundation plantings because it makes more sense to me to bring the planting out from the house.
Yeah.
But in this instance, we have an ugly foundation, so we probably ought to get rid of most of these old arborvitae, which are in very bad shape. We can save these rhododendron, but it would be nice to bring some planting back along this edge against that nice new siding that you've put up.
Cedar.
Cedar siding. Now let's take a walk around the side house. There are very narrow property lines here.
Well, the houses are about 30 feet apart, so I've got about a 15-foot side yard here that I can't imagine what we'd do with.
And then, of course, we have the neighbor's garage right here, and the cars are obviously parked out here in the wintertime, and the bedroom windows look right out.
Yeah.
So it'd be very nice to do a little bit of screening in here. We don't have that much room to plant anything too great, but a shade tree in here would be quite nice, especially from the south side.
Well, what about from the point of view of the garage that the neighbors have back there?
Well,
and not having to look at it and park cars all the time.
That would be part of the planting that I think we probably ought to bring into and against this side of the garage to help screen the cars.
Okay.
But here's the best part of the whole site, as far as I'm concerned.
The woods.
The woods are really lovely. They tend to slope up so that you see green all the time around here in the
Part
summertime.
of our lot actually goes into those woods down there.
And what we really want to do is all the windows face in this direction, and we should focus our views. There's no reason for closing off this space. It's very open and very nice, and all the neighbors have purposely kind of left it open, so we should respect that.
Yeah.
Now,
but still, we can kind of orient ourselves towards that section of woods there from the point
yeah,
of
there's a
view
nice little linden tree right here. You can see there's some old picnic tables underneath. It would be nice to draw the people out and let them sit in the yard.
Right.
Now, this is the south side of the house. We get lots of sun here all year round, and obviously that's the reason for putting the sunroom here.
Correct.
And a picture window. What I think would be awfully nice to do is to develop a little garden in this space. It's probably the only fussiness that we want to make on this whole site. It's a lovely little herb garden, maybe a perennial garden here that we view from the window.
Yeah.
At the same time, it might be nice in the summertime, because you're going to have an awful lot of sun coming through the sunroom, is to put a shade tree here that will lose its leaves in the wintertime so that you can get the sun that you want.
That's
into
clever,
the room.
yeah, because you only need the sun in the winter when you're trying to heat the space, and you probably would want some shade inside that sunroom in the hot months. And then what kind of plantings are you talking about right here? Because what I'm thinking of, Tom, is when you walk into that new entryway, you look straight out back here.
Yeah.
So I suppose it would be sensible
They should be low plantings, things that you can look over, but when you're sitting or standing in there, the detail ought to be quite pleasant. But again, the primary view is out to the
Yeah, because originally we'd been thinking of wrapping a deck around here, but I guess maybe...
Well, I think a deck would be much better over here off the family room, Bob. Off to the side of the house, so that our view is not obstructed coming out. In fact, right here, since the door is somewhat off-center, I think it's a perfect opportunity to bring a deck coming all the way out in this direction and get all the furniture kind of off to this side. So again, your view from the window to the landscape is unobstructed.
That's a very good point. So the deck would have to be built so that you'd concentrate everything over here and you'd still be able to look out into the woods.
Now you can see that all of the water is kind of draining over here to this sort of catch basin. So whatever
That's the other property line right over here.
Right here, about 20 feet away. Yeah. So we have the opportunity here of doing a little planting right here to afford some privacy for the deck from this facade, at the same time break that up just a little.
It's an awfully wet area, though, isn't it?
It is, and we should make sure that whatever plants we put in here will tolerate wet growing situations.
Okay.
Well, let's walk around to the front. I will come back in a couple of weeks and do a more detailed sketch of this, but we're just kind of talking in general. Now, this is really the most spectacular pussy willow specimen in the whole neighborhood.
It's about 15 feet high, yeah.
And about almost as broad. We ought to do everything we can to save that, and I think our
glad to hear it. Good.
We'll show you how we're going to do that over here. Now,
but this, as you see it, is the big problem area, right?
This is the problem area. This is where everyone comes and to first enter the house.
And we're driving right up here. And
that's right. Now, this entry, I think, is so well designed in terms of a greeting. You know, it's somewhat recessed. But on the other hand, we have this other door going into the kitchen, the service entry.
Yeah.
So whatever we design here, we want to make sure that we segregate that very clearly from this, so that all the visitors come directly in this way.
That's been my concern, because I always figured it would be confusing to have a stranger pull up and not know which door, whether it was a two-family house or what.
Now, I did a sketch of this, Bob. Let me just fetch it for you and show you what we've developed for this.
This is the preliminary.
That's right. Now, we've walked through the site coming around in this direction, and you know that all the sketches that I do are based on a plan that shows the house and the driveway and the site environs. We've walked around here. Here are the views out to the woods.
These are the lot lines right along
These are the
here.
lot lines around here. Here's the Pussy Willow, about the only decent plant on the whole site. Now, the other thing that we really must look at, and I tend to depend on all the time when I design, is what I call the sun diagram. This is the north.
What is that?
This is north.
Yeah.
Okay. And what this shows is the pattern of the summer sun, which kind of comes up and comes around like this. So this is all this part of the site is just full of sun in the summertime.
The backyard, yeah. It's
and
always
the
a sunny backyard.
And this is the winter sun, which tends to have a much narrower angle in the winter, so that we are right here now in this little niche, which is on the northerly side of the building. Tends not to get very much light, except maybe a little afternoon sun in the summertime.
All right, so that's kind of a consideration in terms of what we planned out here. But how do we resolve the problem we've just been talking about, the two entryways? I've got my main door into the sunroom there and the old kitchen door there.
Well, this little sketch shows some preliminary ideas, Bob. And my thought is that if we develop a little wood deck off this front entrance, here's the front entrance right in here, this little recess, and we develop a little wood deck, we can segregate the entrance into the kitchen this way by putting a step that comes down and away, so that when you pull in, you won't see that step at all. It'll be completely hidden by planting here. The other thing I'd like to do is to develop a wood screen across here that would have the same paneling, same red cedar paneling as on the building. It would be free floating, not attached to the building. So it becomes part of the landscape.
Let's look at that a little bit closer over here. Because I originally had thought about doing that sort of a screen, but right at the line of the house here. And,
yeah.
and
well,
you're talking about
what I'm suggesting we do is to put it right out here, so it would be just about 8 feet wide or so, a few feet away from the drive, so that snowplows won't get into it.
Yeah.
And then we have the opportunity of putting maybe a little, the house number on that. It tends to kind of bring the house into the landscape and the landscape into the house. Now then what we could do is to transplant like that rhododendron right there, directly here in front of the door, so that we have, when we walk out, a beautiful plant to look at, a kind of space to come into, and a door that is somewhat screened over here, so that all your friends and visitors will come in this direction.
Okay. Well, Tom, I hope you know I've got only 2.5 more weeks to go.
Well,
and at least the snow's getting away, so that we will be able to start some of this work pretty soon.
Well, let's say by next week we'll have this pretty well along, and by the following week, let's hope we can finish it, Bob.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Well, we're running out of time for today, but we can't really stop working around here because there's only 2 more weeks to get everything finished. Till next week, I'm Bob Vila for This Old House.
This Old House is made possible by a grant from Owens Corning Fiberglass Corporation, manufacturers of residential building products.